All right, I'm here with Owls manager Mike Sansing. How are you doing today, Coach?
Doing great. Just excited about the upcoming season. The weather's been a little least dry for us this week, so got a few things done.
Absolutely. Speaking of the off season, what have you been up to?
Um, Not much. Just a lot of our off season is preparation and recruiting and preparation for the upcoming practice schedules. And we basically in November, December, um, we kind of lay out our January, February plans and recruiting and visits. We have unofficial and official visits coming in, and so more less off the field, more paperwork
That,
type things.
that sounds pretty fun.
Yeah, well, you know it's about interaction and getting people on this campus. I think we have a great selling tool in this campus and the university, and so we try to get as many people on here throughout the winter time. Again, because we're not on the field, it gives us an opportunity to consistently bring people here.
Absolutely. Once they see the campus, they'll want to be on the campus. So.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at the housing and the food plan and the academics and the buildings, everything that's new, and people are amazed when they get on our campus. So we brag on it, and we definitely want them here.
Absolutely. The better talent, the better performance on the field.
Yep.
Um, let's talk a bit way back. You won that NAIA championship in, was it 1994?
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about the transition going from NAIA to Division Two and then to Division One.
Really, that NAI transformation there was not a real difficult one. We had um, guys in place that we knew we were going Division Two. We knew that it was coming up. We recruited, and the aspect of guys knowing they were going to play a year in NAI and then go in a year a lot in Division Two because we had a lot of junior college players. So um, we had really really good talent. We were always getting the best junior college players in the state, and so the transition, if you look at it on paper and the history of it, in 1995 we were one in the country, and that was our first year in the NCAA Division Two. 1996 we win the national championship. 1997, 98, 99 we go to the World Series. So we felt like we did make a very good transition from NAI in '94 going through that span into the new transition was in 2006 when we went into Division One, and that one's been a little more difficult. Um, it's been a little different type of player that we're recruiting. Um, the junior college player uh, is not the top priority in our recruiting now. It's more the high school player. So some things on our end have changed in recruiting, um, but that's kind of been what the transition was.
And have you changed up your managerial styles over the years?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I try to learn a lot. I try to, go to clinics and conventions and pick up what people are saying. So there are. I'm about new things. I get stagnant sometimes in my mind, and I don't want to be like that. I want us to, in our program, I want to do new things. I tell our coaches to come up with new ideas. We talk to our players about maybe things they did over the summer. When our pro players come back to town, I sit down with them and I ask them a couple questions. One, I always ask them, did you get fined? Did you do anything wrong? No. All right, then tell me some new things that you guys are doing, some things that'll help me. So I'm about new stuff, and so yeah, to say have I changed? Absolutely, I change. All the time. One year I may try it one way and don't like it, and next year I hear somebody else doing it some way, and I'll find out about that and go that route.
The past few years have been a lot of influence with sabermetrics and stuff. Are you more by the book, or do you buy into all the the numbers, the percentages, and
Yeah, I'm a little bit of both. I read, up on those things. I keep up with stats. I feel like, box scores and statistics that you can see a lot about a player. And then, of course, as a manager, some of it comes down to your players, your knowledge of them and what they can do. Maybe more so than what stats will show you, because of the fact you're out there each day with them. And other teams, we do scouting reports, so we put in some work in a lot of work in that scouting aspect of opponents. So we try to take what we've learned and apply it, maybe not more than, say, a stat sheet.
Excellent. That's some interesting stuff right there.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I know it's early, but how do you see the pitching staff shaping up so far with the loss of Steve Janis to the Braves, and you lost Travis Dean and some spot starters and Buznets, McCoy.
Yeah, it's a good staff. It's obviously an unproven staff. From an experience standpoint, we did have an upper class heavy group of pitchers last year, whether juniors, getting drafted, seniors, but so we weren't able to get some of our younger guys in as much as we'd like to. So this year is definitely a transition year with that staff. I think Coach Arminio has done a great job in prepping them. We talk to them constantly about it is a transition, it is a grind coming up. But until you actually get out there and get the experience, all the talk you could do, but it's just getting out there and getting some stats under you.
I know Nathan Harsh had a pretty good summer. What was it, 20 strikeouts in the game, something like that?
Yeah, it was crazy. But yeah, he had a good spring for us. He was a midweek starter last year. We're kind of, that's our plan with guys, is midweek guys go to the weekend, the following year. So we anticipate he's going to do that. He did have a good summer. Hopefully he'll be able to carry all that over into the spring.
And talk a little bit about Jordan Hillier. He started out really strong last year and then tapered off just a little bit.
Yeah, and again, that may be some of that freshman. It's a different game. You start off, you're feeling good, and then you start getting tired. You start, fatigue factor sets in, and different things, success rates. So I think Jordan went this summer, pitched really well. Made the All-Star team up in New England. So, we think he's going to come back and definitely be a guy for us also.
I think so too, because I liked what I saw from him last year. And then we have Will Solomon. Anything there?
Well, Will was injured this summer, and he's really come along well. The plan is that he may redshirt this year unless he comes along quicker than maybe he should. But we'll have to just talk with our trainers and doctors and just kind of get a feel from them. But watching him throw the other day in his rehab, I was very impressed just to see how loose his shoulder was.
Good to hear that it seems to be coming along well.
Yeah.
And let's head to the bullpen. It seems the closing spot is James Cannell, the setup man, Justin McAlvin. What can you give us beyond that right now?
Yeah, I think the back end of the game is our strong point, our fact that we have an idea of what we're doing there. I think those guys are interchangeable. It's not always going to be James in the ninth, and it's not always going to be J Mac in the eighth. It's more, to me, I'm more about what's going on in terms of that inning, or if it's the seventh inning and we're up 2 runs and the bases are loaded, you may see one of those guys come in, because I feel like the game is decided sometimes in the 6th or 7th inning and not always in that 8th or 9th inning. So I think you may see a combination of things. If a guy comes in, if J-Mac comes in the 8th and throws 3 pitches, he may go back out in the 9th. But I'm not going to have a set 8th and 9th inning guys. I think I'm going to use those guys as needed throughout the game.
Can you play that back for Freddie Gonzalez?
Well, again, it's just, I just look at our team and the fact that I really believe games are decided sometimes not in that ninth inning, and it's just J Mac, for example, 2 years ago we would use him in the third inning. We may use him in the fifth um, because he had to get us out of a jam, and instead of giving up 4 runs, we maybe give up one.
I agree. And if you don't use him, sometimes you might lose him anyway, since it might be a Sunday and he hasn't pitched the
Right,
last day or two. So
right.
gotta put in your best when they're there. All right, we were talking about a little bit about the back end of the bullpen and James Cannell, who's named one of the team captains, along with senior Bo Way, who came in last year from junior college and just kind of hit the ground running. Talk about those guys.
Yeah, great guys, great leaders in our program. James is a redshirt senior and really has taken on that role for the last 2 years now as one of our captains. Um, Bo plays with a ton of energy, excitement guy to watch play, and that energy I feel feeds into our other players. So they're similar. They're very competitive guys. Bo's like I said, high energy. James is more. He sails along a little bit in the dugout until he gets out on the mound, and then he comes in with that bulldog mentality. But uh, those guys are very beneficial to our program and to our coaching staff to go between sometimes when players don't want to talk to the coaches about issues or something. It's nice to have those guys that'll come to me.
Absolutely. I don't think we touched on him yet, but Max Pentecost, who was drafted in the seventh round by the Texas Rangers coming out of high school. He was named the Cape Cod League MVP, which is a prestigious award. It was last given to a catcher, I believe, in '93 to Jason Varitek. Talk about his development from his freshman year to his sophomore year to right now.
Yeah, and it has been. Max came in his freshman year. Um, we had a guy named Ronnie Freeman who was a great player for us, fifth round selection. So with Arizona, so Ronnie caught the majority of those games the freshman year. Max would catch some of those games on the weekends, and I think Max got an opportunity to see how Ronnie worked, and if you've ever been around Ronnie and watched his work habits and his efforts and his demeanor, I think it was so beneficial for Max. And I see a lot of Ronnie's traits in Max now: the work ethic, the stretching, and so Max has done a lot on his own to make himself a great player. There was no question about it out of high school. He, was going to be a high selection. Um, but he seems to really, the second half of last year into the postseason, really good year for us. Goes up to the Cape, uh, again MVP there. So there's definitely some history now with his performance, and it's been very positive.
Absolutely. It was amazing to see his performance in the Cape Cod League, or at least hear about it.
Yeah.
Uh, has anybody on the team surprised you with their progress this offseason, or done anything since the season ended that makes you think maybe they'll really step up this year?
Um, I think some of the young guys, now that we're back from the fall, we went fall and they had some success. They've had, some failures during that fall. But right now, I can't say because we haven't really gotten into this spring yet. We're limited on our skill instruction to 2 hours a week. We're trying to get as much done for those guys individually, so we haven't been able to enter squad yet or do a lot of team things. So that'll start next Friday and go into next weekend with some inter squad. So I'm hoping that we'll see some development in our young guys. I think the big factor we've been able to see in them is the weight room. We've seen 10 to 15 pounds added on several of those guys from when they walked in here in August until now. So I think they've gotten stronger, which is usually a good indication, that they'll hit better, or they'll hit further, they'll throw harder, they'll run faster, whatever. But that's probably been the biggest transition that I've been able to see so far.
So I guess it's safe to say you anticipate maybe a little less small ball this year.
Um, Not necessarily. I think the bats dictate some of that for us. I think that's a little bit of um, my philosophy, and it's not so much small ball, but my goal is to get ahead in the games. If you look over statistics, we were talking earlier. I think don't quote me exactly, but it was somewhere 2 years ago we were, I'm going to say, 19-7 in games that we scored first. Okay, and in games that we scored second, we were about 500. So that's a pretty good percentage. So I like to get ahead early. I like to put some pressure on guys, on teams, and at least get to that. It must be something psychology-wise, that to know you look up and you're down a run or two, and the struggles to get back. So I think we do some of that in order to get ahead early.
That's an interesting way of thinking about it. Um, Now let's go to your freshman class coming in. Talk a little bit about them.
The group here now.
Yeah, the group here now in general.
Yeah. We've got several pitchers in that group. Chris Irwin, Jordan Versteeg, Gabe Freeze. Those guys all we think are going to be pretty good pitchers. We've got a great history here of pitchers, and we feel like those guys are going to fit right in the mold with what we've been able to do. In the infield wise, I got two really talented guys in Cornell Nixon and Jeremy Howe, and I think you'll see those guys, playing some immediately for us. So I think that's encouraging to know that your group of freshmen are coming in and participating. And that's their goal, is to be playing as a freshman. Nobody's goal is to play as sophomores. They want to get in there and get some action. And we talk about some of the guys last year who were freshmen that got a chance to play, and we're hoping that those benefits will show this year.
Speaking of that, talk a little bit about Cal Simmons. He stepped in right away. Was originally committed to, I believe, Florida State, and you guys stole him there. He had a tremendous freshman year.
Yeah, they had I guess a coaching changeover there, and so it didn't work out for Cal to go there. And we had seen him, previous to him committing there, and I always said, man, that's a good player. And when he came open again, and we were able to get on him, it really helped our program. We've struggled at shortstop for maybe, when I say struggle, we haven't gotten our shortstop in school probably in the last 4 or 5 years because of the draft. Every time we sign a high school shortstop, he gets drafted and signed. And I mean, that's going on for several years here. So Cal was one of the guys that came to school, and you see what he was able to do for us. Had a great year, All-American, tremendous lateral movement, great arm. Just your typical pro-type shortstop. So we were fortunate to get him here, and you can see the results of what he already has done.
Have to give some love to Peyton Hart, though, for filling in there for a little while, maybe a little bit out of position.
Yeah, I mean, they said Peyton was our third baseman, and because of those guys consistently signing, Peyton played short and did a great job for us. But I think Peyton felt naturally at third, but we had to put him in there, and he carried us there for 2 years.
And the team captain as well.
Yes.
All right, Skip. We mentioned Bo Way earlier. Talk a little bit about, we have a couple other names coming back in the outfield. We got Chris McGowan, I believe he's a redshirt senior.
Yeah.
And Jacob Bruce. What do you know about those guys?
Yeah, Jacob had a really good year last year. Just a solid player. He can run, he can throw. He's got some pop. He's just a really good outfielder. So I mean, real pleased with him. Chris McGowan, who played some in the outfield last year, some at first, um, had the best fall, the best stint that since he's been here. Fall, spring, take them all. He This past fall was clearly his best, and so we're excited about him. I mean, we have some high expectations. He has high expectations of himself, so that's going to be an interesting one there. Uh, Alex LaCory, who played a lot last year as a freshman, and we we hope that's where the benefit of playing last year comes into play this year. I really think you look at our history. Chad Jenkins and Kyle Heckathorn were both first-round draft picks as juniors, and there's no doubt in my mind that was a lot to do with the fact that they were pitched as freshmen. They pitched in conference games and started and so forth. So uh, we're hoping just that experience that we're giving these young guys pays off for us, and it has. I mean, you look at Max Pentecost, you look at Cal Simmons last year played. So I think McGowan, LaCory, Way, Bruce. That's a pretty good combination in the outfield.
Definitely, definitely. Um, how will we have a pretty good baseball history here at Kennesaw State, and I'd be remiss if I didn't touch on Willie Harris.
Yeah.
The made the major leagues, had 6 hits in a game with the Atlanta Braves one year. I believe it was '06 or '07, sometime around there. What do you know about him from his days at KSU?
Yeah, just a great player for us, great person. He was always fun to be around. Um, never saw a player, or never had a player who could basically tell you what he was going to do. He would say, "I'm going to hit one out here," or "This guy's pretty good. I better be ready." And he, double or triple off the wall. It really just was a kind of a different level than a lot of the guys who were here. But have some great stories with him, a lot of fun, and it was just great to have in our program.
Uh, you have a class coming in next year's freshman class.
Mm-hmm.
Some pretty impressive names who've already faxed in their letters of intent, including Griffin Helms, who is another catcher. Kennesaw State just keeps producing catchers. What is it that keeps Kennesaw State bringing in the names at the position?
Yeah, we think catching is a huge part of this game. I'm uh, always looking for quality catchers because handling pitching staffs is a big responsibility. But I just think they're so vital to our team, and I give them all the credit in the world because it's a tough job, and but we're able to, I think, have good pitching helps good catching, and I think it's a pair that just kind of blends together. And but we have had a great run of catchers here, and we think Griffin is in those lines to follow some of those great players.
And you also have some other guys coming in, T.J. Riles, the two Logans, A.J. Moore, Jared Walker, Tony Dybrell, Will Campbell, and Brock Turner, who's the only one from junior college.
Yeah, Brock's a junior college guy, and the rest of them, as I mentioned earlier, recruiting's somewhat changed with the new academic rules, and Division I just seems to be geared more towards the high school player, where Division II seems to be geared more towards the junior college player. And all those guys you mentioned, I think, are guys that are going to come in and help us right away, and that's what we look for is impact guys. And we tell them, you're going to have a chance. If you look at the history of Kennesaw State and playing young players, it's there. And I think a lot of those guys will be able to push for a starting job next year.
And you transitioned, most of the recruiting was done with Coach Tucker?
Well, this class was basically Coach Simmons and Coach Arminio.
Coach Simmons and Arminio?
Yeah. The Um, really, I think Jarrett was one that had committed to us very early in the process, but the rest of these guys are, Coach Simmons, Coach Arminio, and you know, I'm out there, but those guys are doing the grind for sure.
Absolutely. I just had to work. I had to work them into this
Oh
interview to
yeah,
give them a
absolutely,
little bit of credit there.
absolutely.
Um, Now let's talk about just some fun facts
Uh
to
huh.
finish this up. Who do you think could hit a baseball the furthest on the team right now?
Oh,
Just a giant meatball. Who would throw it up there? Who would smash it the farthest?
um, Chris McGowan,
Rich McGowan. How about all time from since you've been here?
Scott Conway.
Scott Conway.
Scott Conway was about 6'5", 260 pounds, left-hander, and he would hit them over there, Waffle House covered, smothered. I mean, he put it. I mean, he had some pop.
There was no hesitation
Yeah.
there as
No,
soon as I said that.
No, he could pop it out of here for sure.
Now, here's another one. Who's the fastest on the team right now?
Alex LaCory and Jacob Bruce are one day one will get the other one. They'll go at it in a lot of our competitions because those are the two fastest guys. Um, so it'd be a flip your coin deal on them, but it'd be those two.
All time?
Oh, Willie Harris probably was in there, and really probably Jacob and Alex. I mean, they're both like 6'5" runners, and that's a pretty. Once you get under 6'6", you're pretty unique.
Absolutely. All right, now the strongest arm on a position player right now.
Um, Cal Simmons.
Cal Simmons, all
Yeah.
time.
Oh, all time.
Outfielder, infielder.
Yeah. Gary Peters. Gary played on our '94 national championship team. Had a hose, threw a guy out in the championship game, so I got to give him the nod.
No love for Chris McGowan here.
Well, I gave him some power for this year, but yeah, Gary had a plus arm for sure.
Excellent. And what about a pitcher? Who could top it out at around near 100? Anybody?
Well, I mean, there's been several guys. Heckathorn was 96, 97. That's probably about the tops. There's been some guys in that 94. Kenny Falk, I think, was 95. But I think Heckathorn is probably the highest velo there.
All right. And it would make sense since he's one of the highest drafted Owls since started up here. And my final question is talk a little bit about, the opener coming up soon was against Middle Tennessee State.
Yeah. Mid-February, we're trying to get going. I know the guys are excited. We went up there last year and didn't play real well, so I think that's kind of stuck in some of the guys' minds. But more than anything, it's just an opportunity to get out and start playing. Show what you've done over the fall, what you've done in the weight room, and it's just open. There's nothing like opening day, in baseball. It just doesn't matter what the weather is. It's just exciting to get out there, and I know the guys are looking forward to it. The coaches are, our trainers. That's what everybody shoots for, and that's when it comes around. It starts. The more closer it gets, the more exciting you get.
Absolutely, it's getting really close right now. It
Yeah.
still feels like basketball season, but baseball season sneaks up on you.
Right. Yeah. You get that little bit of overlap, and of course basketball starts getting into the tournaments, and that's a lot of energy going on there. And baseball kind of starting, but as soon as the basketball tournaments start ending up, the baseball gets on a lot of people's minds.
Absolutely, and then we got football coming up here soon as well, getting on people's minds. So we got that too. Well, thanks for taking the time to speak with me, Coach, and hopefully I'll talk to you again soon.
Sounds good.